All right, guys, we are live with the restaurant again. We are here with Brooke Knight. Brooke just had a successful fight over the weekend, actually yesterday. This is the first time that Gary and I have seen her since then, and first time Gary's seen her, period. However, this is what I want to say with that. Your face looks immaculate.
Thank you. I have like a couple like little, like they look like road rashes on the side of my head, but nothing major at all.
So are you sore from the fight? I'm going to put this on for the people that are on watching live. I'm going to put you on big so we can look at your face. That seems kind of creepy, but your face looks beautiful.
Thank you.
So nothing wrong. So, and I only saw that one round, and that's why I asked you. And you said that was the first round.
Yeah.
Before we get into that first round that I saw, did you not have the second and third round? Or
I mean, it was pretty evident that I had the first round. We clinched up a little bit, and she tried to flip me, and then like I flipped her back over and got in her guard, and she tried to pull like a triangle on me. It wasn't like a very tight triangle, so I just like started like doing what I'm supposed to do, just like start bashing her in the face, and she let up, like she pulled guard, and then I don't even know why I stood up on her. Like I just like did some ground and pound for like 30 seconds, and then I got up. Like I don't know why. But as far as the second and third round, like second round, like they had it towards her or whatever. Just because she had more cage control and stuff. Throwing a couple like knees and a couple body shots. As far as the third round, she did have me up against the cage. But at one point, like she let go, and I think I got her like really good with a cross. So I was like, oh shit, like let's go. And then I just kind of threw some stuff. I think the reason why I had the third round is because I got more significant strikes and I had more leg kicks. But she did wonderful. She was an awesome opponent. Like I would bang with her again. Like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I watched it, and I think it's pretty accurate. I think you were more active in the third round, and I think that you definitely earned the victory. Anybody who was complaining about it, whatever, it's hard. It's always the idea of not leaving it in the hands of the judges or whatever. We don't want to do that.
Were there people?
And I definitely think. Sorry, go ahead.
Were there people complaining? I don't know. I'm a little bit out.
I mean, just like people on her end, I think, they were just basically saying like she should have won the second and third round. I mean, yeah, second round, I wasn't super active because I'm not going to lie. Like I was getting tired. I think like I kind of started to hit like an adrenaline dump. Like I was just getting a little winded. And that third round, like nothing towards her, but I think she was just more or less just leaning up against me on the cage. I mean, she was throwing like some very light knees, some strikes, but not doing a whole lot, and then at one point she shoved me off of her, and then I got her good with a cross, and then I just kind of, I don't know.
No, let me do this. Let's get more into the fight here in a second, but before we do that, why don't you tell people a little bit like about your background, who you are, right? Your name obviously is Brooke Knight, right? We got that. Yes. But how did you get to this point? How did you get to the point where you have an MMA fight? Because I know you, right? But everybody that's listening doesn't. And I know what you did and where you come from, meaning you came from weightlifting and powerlifting, which is shocking. As before we went live, how much do you weigh?
Well, I currently weigh 110 pounds.
So what did you weigh when you were doing competitive powerlifting?
Competitively, like my last powerlifting meet, I was 52 kilos, which was 114. And my biggest I'm sorry.
Roughly the same, right?
Yeah, roughly the same. Yeah, my biggest deadlift at 114 was 308. So
which is, and just so you know, that's very impressive. I think at 385, not that that's all I lift, because I can't be shown up by a little 114-pound girl, but I will say that that's when I blew my back out and it changed my life. That was around 2010, and herniated disc, lifting around 385, deadlifting. Literally changed my life. I'm like a fat piece of shit now. during that period, some pictures just popped up today while my wife and I were at dinner. It looked amazing. It was good days. And I was like, Lisa, do you remember these pictures? And she was like, I do. What happened? And I was like, I don't know, Lisa. I ate a lot of donuts and I quit working out. That's basically what happened.
Yeah.
But
I was super passionate about powerlifting. So back in like 2018 or 2017, 18, 19, I had a trainer, and his name's Clayton Workman. Shout out to him. We trained together literally every single day. Like, he helped me with my form, my technique, everything. Then I got back into it before I started doing MMA again, and he blew out both of his quads squatting. Yeah. So he wasn't super active with it anymore. So I was kind of just doing it by myself, and I just didn't love it anymore. So that's when I got back into MMA. So
did you?
So you say, oh, sorry, Butch, but I was gonna say, you said you get back into MMA. What was your first parlay into mixed martial arts?
Well, I trained, I don't know if you're familiar with the Doghouse gym here in Parkersburg with Mike Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
So I trained there. I did some.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Brooke, but I do want to, for people that don't know, Mike Shepard is a living legend, right? He and recently with this Russian war with Ukraine, he's been posting some pictures where he won an ISK title in Russia, which I was part of that. But anyway, I want to bring that's where my stand-up came from the 1997 on. Mike basically beat the shit out of me for years until he semi-retired. Mike probably could come out of retirement anytime, and he's fought Andrew Galata, I think, maybe not, but intimate. I mean, he's fought like the best of the best in boxing and kickboxing and everything else, and briefly and he still does. He has a gym in Parkersburg called the Doghouse, but
correct.
We also had a gym. The original Doghouse was in Glenville, West Virginia, held by Leon Ramsey. I want to give some shout outs to all these guys, and Leon Ramsey is the one that started this, who is also the West Virginia Athletic Commission commissioner currently, but he is the one that really started this and had the first real West Virginia champ. There's a lot of people that win state titles, not to undermine those guys, but they win state titles in boxing, and it's still a very big accomplishment. So I'm not undermining them, but like, when you win a title in West Virginia, it's not the same as winning a title in Chicago or New York or LA. Yeah. I mean, it's still cool. Listen, man, it's still great. But Mike really broke that barrier where he went international, and he fought people from France that I was part of, and again went to Russia, won the ISK world title, and living legend. And he started a gym in Parkersburg called the Doghouse, which is homage to Leon Ramsey. And I just want to give you that, guys. I want to give you that background first, because Mike was amazing, and he still is amazing. Literally has some of the best fights I ever saw up close as you know, as a friend and a training partner and everything else. But just I want to give private, like, again, because we're going to assume that nobody knows what you're talking about. And I just want to give like some background to some of these things. Like, if you don't know who Mike is, Mike's a legend. His gym's great. And I'm not saying that any less for where you're at now, Ryan Carroll. And I know you're going to get into that, but I would just want to give Mike a shout out. So I'm sorry, Brooke, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're absolutely fine. Mike is a badass. But anyway, so I started training with Jason Cable. I started doing Jiujitsu with him.
Awesome.
Yeah, so he's a pretty badass guy too. And then Keith, that's when Keith started coming. He's an MMA fighter. So I trained there for about a year and a half, 2 years. I was actually going to have a fight about 6 years ago on March 12th. What a coincidence.
Yeah.
But like 3 days before the fight, the girl ended up backing out. So yeah, I trained there for a couple of years, and then Keith ended up going to Marietta Combat. So I just couldn't really get over there every single day. And that's when I started doing powerlifting and stuff. So yeah.
How did Ryan come into your life, and how did that work out?
Yeah, well, I was just telling him. So I was doing powerlifting, and then Morgan's like, hey, like, you know, I want to try kickboxing, and then saw like Ronin MMA and Jiu-Jitsu on Facebook or something, and she's the one that got in contact with Ryan. Like I knew of
And
him.
Morgan's your girlfriend, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So Morgan got in contact with Ryan. I mean, I knew Ryan because he used to train at the doghouse too, but we never really spoke or anything. So she got in contact with him, started training with him, and then I started going and watching her. I was like, shit, like I miss this shit. I want to do it too. So then I just started doing it again, and ever since then I've been hooked. And Ryan is the most amazing trainer I've ever had in my entire life. Like everybody else has been great, but he just has pushed me out of my comfort zone. He spars with me. Like, nobody really wants to hit me because I'm 110 pounds and they're afraid they're going to hurt me. But he lays it on me, dude. Like, he'll beat the shit out of me. But it's amazing because it, like, not saying Harley can't punch because she can punch, but I've never been hit as hard as Ryan has hit me in my entire life. So, like, getting hit from her, like, really wasn't that bad,
No, that's a solid point. I had a guy, his name is Bill Dexter, and he won multiple Muay Thai and kickboxing world champions, ISKA, IKF. We actually went to Thailand, and he fought in Thailand and finished third in the world. Badass guy. He fought between 135. Actually, he fought as much as 155 in MMA, but in kickboxing is 135, 127, actually. So just a little bit bigger than you, but nonetheless, that's one of the stories he told me. Like, just to give you kind of a background, one time we were at a thing, and it reminds me of what you're saying right now. That's why I want to bring it up. But we were getting ready, and he was supposed to fight a guy that was like 55-0, and this was Bill's first fight, so he was kind of getting screwed. Yeah, and the whole screw job from the get go. Right, we're gonna fight in Lancaster, Ohio, which I think they say Lancaster. Like a real weird, Gary would know, right? They say
Lancaster.
Yes, they say real weird, but
Lancaster.
Yeah, they say it like super fast. But anyway, we signed up for this fight, which was Sam Jones' fight, which is Seth's, was it grandpa, right?
Yeah, it's his grandpa.
Not to talk shit about Sam, but we kind of got screwed. so yeah, right. And I don't know the background. We can have Sam on here, and I'm sure we will one day, and we'll find out what happened. And he probably doesn't remember because there's a million fights. But anyway, I was like, hey, this guy's never fought. I'd like if you fought a guy that's 0-1, 1-0, that's where we'd like to be. And so we show up, and like the guy he's gonna fight's 11-0 and a world kickboxing champion. So I was pissed. I was like, we've had this conversation 10 times. And like, you're telling me this is who he's gonna fight. I was like, fuck you. Right. So I was like, we're leaving. And and what happens, and this is not to say this is what happened at that event, but a lot of times people do this, and then once you're there, they know that a fighter is a fighter, so the fighter wants to fight, because we drove 3 hours to get there and do whatever, and so they know you're kind of on the hook. Well, that's my job as a manager / promoter, all that stuff. And I was like, no, we're leaving, right? So Bill's like, no, we're like, come on, man, I trained all day, which is what fighters say. And I was like, no, we're leaving, man. I'm not going to get screwed. Like, I had this conversation 100 times. So then he comes back and he was like, all right, well, here, I have this alternative for you. The guy's not 11-0. He's not a kickboxing champion, but he's just a boxer. He hasn't done much, blah, blah, blah. So like, I was like, okay, well, let's talk about that one then. And then like, by the time we get down to the nitty gritty, the guy's like 55-0, fought on Showtime. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't get much better, but I was like, okay, well, at least he's never kickboxed, right? So we had something there. I'm like, the guy's 55-0. And on top of that, like, we were watching him already hit the mitts, not knowing that we're going to fight this guy. And we're like, already like, holy shit, that guy's amazing. Like, sometimes you see people hit mitts and you're like, holy shit. It kind of scares you. So like,
yeah.
But Bill, as a real fighter, is like, look, I don't care, And I was like, Bill, we're not doing this fight. This guy's 55 now, and Bill looks at me just like you just said, and he goes, dude, you've hit me, and you're going to hit me way harder than this motherfucker's going to hit me. Right. Yeah. And I never really put all that together. Like, I was like, well, thanks for the compliment, number one. Right? Like, and then number two, I was like, well, you're right, because I weigh 240 pounds, right? And if I'm hitting Bill, and that, unfortunately for Bill, that I was his main sparring partner at the time. We just didn't have a lot of guys showing up, and I was his main trainer, and I was just getting the gym started. So I was like the guy, and he was my guy, and we're trying to prove something. But anyway, I was like, well, Bill, like that's a good point. I never really thought about it, but if you're comfortable, then I'll shut my mouth and I'll let it be. And he said, yes, I want this fight. And I was like, okay, scared to death, right? As a promoter slash trainer slash manager, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm making the right decision. And I know that I shouldn't trust fighters because fighters want to fight, right? Anyway, he took the fight. He won 11 seconds. Because guess what? The guy really was a boxer, as he said. And he bobbed and weaved when he shouldn't have bobbed and weaved, and he ran right into a high kick right off the bat. Right, the guy, it was beautiful boxing. The guy did a nice bob and weave right into a left high kick and got knocked out. Like if it was just straight boxing, it was beautiful.
Right.
Luckily, the first kick knocked him out, and Bill came victorious, and we didn't have to worry about it. But there's, that's what I'm saying. It reminds me of that. Like I'll never forget that day because it was kind of like one of those moments as a trainer slash manager, like, what do you do? Right. And I'm still not sure to this day if I made the right decision. My guy won, but it could have turned out awful. Right. And it's complicated because, Brooke, like you trained, how long did you have to get ready for this fight?
I've been training with Ryan since October, but I've only known about the fight for about a month before I actually fought. Yeah. So, I mean, I was never really hardcore training, you know what I mean? Like I didn't start taking this seriously until like a month before the fight.
So it's slightly different, but even at a month, if you so let's say that you showed up Saturday, which we're talking one day ago, and you guys showed up and they're like, hey man, your girl didn't show up. Will you take another fight? What would you have said? You probably would have been like, okay, let's go.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
That's
because I was already pumped. You know what I mean? Like I thought I was going to be so much more nervous than what I was, but I mean, just having Ryan there and like the whole Ronin family, like I was just so calm. And it really helped too, because like whenever Ryan was out wrapping my hands, I was like, shit. Like I was nervous, but I was more nervous because of the crowd. I wasn't nervous to fight her. And the whole entire time Ryan was wrapping my hands, I just kept looking at the crowd. I was like, okay, like this is here. Like this is who's here to watch me. And it helped calm my nerves a little bit. So.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is like, there are people who can get over that excitement and people who can't, right?
Yeah.
Like I like to think of myself as somebody who can overcome that, but I think the bright light, I fought on Fight to Win, and I think that got in my head a little bit. And I think I this is nothing against the guy who beat me at Fight to Win, but I was definitely I definitely had the lights playing a factor, the fact that it was streamed and a couple 100,000 people could watch it at home, and not only could they watch it at home, but they could also go back 10 years from now and watch it at home again.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff, like it got to me, and it played a part. I'm not saying I would have won if it didn't get a part of me, but it definitely got to me. And so putting that stuff out of your head and not letting it seep in as far as nerves and stuff. So that's awesome.
I know. I asked Ryan before the fight. I was like, can they turn off the lights? I was like, I don't want the lights on. But no, like once I got into that cage, like it's like the crowd wasn't even there. And all I could hear was Ryan. It was just awesome.
No, that's perfect. As Gary and I know as coaches, right? The best thing about a student slash, person of your gym is, are they coachable? And what that means is, do you listen to direction, and can you discern my voice in this loud, crazy crowd, right? Because good coachable fighters drown everything out but our voice and Ryan's voice, right? For your example is Ryan's voice. So that means you're very coachable, and that's important. That's probably beyond important, because I've had people both ways where I'm like, and I've had people that listen really well in the corner, but not so much during the fight. And that's okay. Like you just gotta work through that too, because that's chaotic, right? Like if I'm yelling like leg kick, well, it's not the greatest coaching either, but the other girl or guy, for that matter, hears that, right? So it doesn't mean that it's going to go exactly how we planned, right? So it's like I've had fighters, right? Like I'm saying, that's not the best coaching, but maybe in the corner we do a better job, right? Or maybe it takes me a little bit as a coach to discern what I need to say during the whole fight. Like I'm watching, but like it just takes me a minute. Like for example, the same guy I was talking about, Bill Dexter, one time in a Muay Thai fight is crazy because he would knock everybody out with a front kick, just a left front kick to the belly all the time, basic front kick. But he had such amazing timing because he was your size. He was very fast and very, very bright. But he, people would come in to punch him and he was, he'd hit him with his front kick and just knock him out, right? He'd hit him right in the perfect spot. Amazing. The only person I ever seen do that. And anyway, we were in a fight in Virginia one time, and this guy kept catching it. Just catch it every time, right? It was crazy because that was his main deal, right? And it was kind of throwing me off. I'm like, I don't even know what to do right now. And so it took me a while to think. And then I didn't really even have the answer until we hit the corner. We hit the corner and I was like, Bill, and it just came out of my mouth. I was like, Bill, just throw it straight to his face. So I was pre Steven Seagal, Steven Seagal taking credit for that. And Anderson Silva, those guys, but I was pre those guys. I was like, hey man, he thinks you're going to throw it to his belly. He's going to catch it. Because he was catching it and then he's throwing out like a vicious right leg kick afterwards and sometimes knocking Bill down and just scoring. But I was like, man, he's gonna catch it in his belly, throw it to his face, right? So we come out in the second or third round, whatever it was, and boom, just hits him right in the face.
Right in the face.
Yeah, it makes me look great because it was a great thing. And then again, it was pre Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal took credit for that, and I was like, no, that's my move, MFer. But anyway. It's one of those things. It's just if he wasn't coachable, he wouldn't have listened, right? Where I didn't necessarily know, and that guy literally probably watched film on Bill, and then he knew, okay, I've got this. When he throws this, I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to do this. And we had to make an adjustment because that guy won the first round, and then it turned out Bill knocked him out because he hit him in the face and messed him up. He didn't finish with that, but he finished with some other stuff. But anyway. So part of it is being very coachable. And look, let's get into that a little bit, but like, here's what I don't want to gloss over the powerlifting and all that stuff. Like, tell us, because Gary and I don't know. I'm assuming Gary and I both haven't powerlifted before. We powerlifted, but not competitively.
Yeah.
Son, look at me. I am huge.
You're jacked. I can tell.
See, that's why we have Brooke on here, because she makes us feel better.
Yeah, you guys are jacked.
See, look at that. Can you just keep saying that, Brooke?
I just saw you a couple weeks ago.
That's what I'm talking about, Brooke.
You look great.
Yes, that's perfect. Can you teach my wife some lessons there, and Gary's wife for that matter?
Yeah.
Amen.
We'll have to make a trip down there soon.
So how does this compare? Listen, I know they're both different, but what are the nerves like compared to powerlifting, and what are the nerves compared to like MMA? Like we know they're different, but explain to us.
That's actually hard. My powerlifting competitions that I did, I mean, I wasn't super nervous. I think the difference in powerlifting too is like, it's not necessarily a competitive sport. Like obviously you're competing against other people, but it's cool too because like everybody is cheering you on. Like everybody wants to see you win and see you do good. You know what I mean? And I think that's the coolest thing about it. I mean by
that though, the other competitors, right? Like
the other competitors, like they want to see you lift heavy as shit. You know what I mean? Like they want to see you succeed. And it's an awesome sport. Like I really enjoy powerlifting. As far as MMA, it's a lot different because somebody wants to beat the shit out of you.
That other team's not so excited, right?
Yeah, exactly. And going from powerlifting where it's like zero cardio, like the least you don't need like any cardio for powerlifting. I don't remember one time in the past 4 or 5 years that I ran on a treadmill for powerlifting. And then, you get to MMA and you need all the cardio in the world. So I love those sports though.
That's the thing is like powerlifting, it's a competition against yourself.
Yeah,
It's not
absolutely.
really a competition against other people. It's no longer against anybody else. It's about you and what you can do yourself.
Yeah.
I was no, I'm no power lifter, but I'm just dumb strong, right? Like I'm lucky that I'm kind of just genetically strong, but I don't
Yes.
work at it. But if I worked at it, maybe I'd be something good, but I'm not. But for a while there, a buddy of mine, Levi, he wanted me to come train with him and lift with him, and he's like a 500-pound bench press guy, like he's in it legit. And I was training with him for 8 months. I got my bench press up to 370, but the whole thing was like it's no longer a competition with other people. It's a competition with you. And what am I willing to do to my body to make myself lift this much weight?
Yeah. I mean, both sports. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Oh,
You're right.
I was just gonna say both sports, like powerlifting and MMA, they're all mental.
Yeah.
It's all a mental thing.
And
I mean,
that's the thing.
honestly, at this point, after fighting yesterday, like I realized I can do anything like I set my mind to.
That's beautiful. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think too, like a lot of people, and I'm not saying Harley did, but I feel like, she and her team could have maybe underestimated me a little bit just because I am so small. And I feel like a lot of people do, but
yeah, let's jump on that though. For example, because Gary and I have never been small. Gary,
yes.
speaking for you, but
and to be honest, like Brooke, the last time that I weighed the same as you, I was probably in the 5th grade. So
yeah.
Maybe younger for me. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I was 170 in the 3rd grade. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't think I've grown since the 6th
What's the thing?
grade.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, my son is in the 3rd grade. I bet he's close to your size. So
yeah, probably.
but that's kind of cool for Gary and I, because we don't know, and that's what I want to know. I want to know all of this, right? Like we all love talking to extraordinary people, and you're one of them, right? And what makes you extraordinary is the mental mindset, but also the fact that you're doing things at 110 pounds, 115 pounds in jiu-jitsu and MMA and powerlifting that Gary and I have never experienced. And that's why it's interesting. It really isn't. We are 100 pounds more than you on a good day. Not on a bad, on a good day. Like I've got to really diet down to be 100 pounds heavier. You know what I mean? Like, so that's amazing. So like, I mean, I know for you, it's like everyday life, right? But what's that like to be underestimated, and what's, and to overcome and just be you? Because it's like, you're like, it's just another day in the office. They underestimated me, but I'm here. Like,
yeah.
kind of gloss over that, but like Gary and I don't know what that is, because a lot of times Gary and I could also be like, he's 240, I'm 240, I'm assuming, but sometimes we go against 300 pounders. We're not the biggest people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's it like to be the smallest person?
Right. So, and like this honestly like might not answer your question to a T, but somebody the other day was like, hey, like, why do you want to fight? Like, why do you want to do MMA? And basically, like, just all my life, like, I feel like people have walked all over me. Like, I've always been a pushover and everything like that. And, I don't like confrontation. Like, I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover typically. And I just, doing powerlifting and doing MMA, like, it just makes you feel like such a badass, And like, whenever you win and like you do good, you're like, shit, like, you are a fucking badass.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like.
But is that why you did? I guess that's a good question. So why did you decide to do this fight? Like, because, and I want to get into this a little bit. You're still a white belt in jiu-jitsu, is that correct?
Yes. You gave me my first stripe a couple weeks ago.
Would you consider you're still a white belt in stand-up as well?
Probably. I mean, obviously, like during our fight, like, because I think Harley actually posted it on YouTube. For the most part, like, I think that both of us looked decently technical, but it being our first fight, like, you could tell it was just a little bit sloppy.
Yeah.
But I mean,
as a guy that's watched a million fights and trained a million people, I would say this. I would say like, yeah, I can tell that you guys started off, but I don't mean that in a bad way, right? Like
Yeah.
because, for example, me and my son were watching NBA basketball today, and he's 9 and he plays basketball, and I was like, look at these guys. Like, can you imagine that they can shoot threes from half court line at will? And like, I was like, isn't it amazing watching these guys that are professionals do this stuff, right? So that's a black belt level in basketball, right? It doesn't mean
Correct.
bad, right? When I was watching, like I could notice the same, and it would be the same as somebody watched me. I'm not UFC level, right? So it's like I could notice stuff like, for example, I only saw the round that you posted, and that's why I asked you what round it was. It was
Yeah.
I'm not going to say this in a bad way, but like that one takedown was fucking awful. So that does sound bad because I said it was fucking awful. But you know what I'm saying? Like you did like try to do a judo takedown and she took your back and then you had to deal
Oh
with
yeah.
it, right?
Yeah, I was trying to flip her over on my back and it just didn't fucking work. But like whatever, you know.
That's what I'm saying. And like the reason I only spot that out is because just the other day, my friend Fahad was at the gym and he said, I hate this takedown because you really expose your back.
Yeah.
And I want to say, like, yeah, but if you're good at it, it doesn't matter. But it takes
Correct.
you did the same takedown that he literally brought up and she took your back. And I was like, Fahad was
Yeah.
right. No,
Yeah. I need to realize sometimes I'm not Ronda Rousey.
well, but the funny thing is because you guys were both, equally matched up. She
Yeah.
took you back, you went to the ground. I feel like you hit her more, even though she had your back. Is that not right?
Yeah, because she had my back and I had my like arm wrapped around her neck and then she like fell to the side and then I was hitting her in the head. So I think I'm pretty sure I had more strikes on the ground than she did. Yeah.
It was I was gonna say it almost felt like Twister-esque.
Yeah.
Like, with the way you're reaching back, I was like, oh my God, it's gonna be a Twister.
It was
I mean, after watching the fight, honestly,
right.
after watching it, there's so many things that like I'm like shit, like I should have done this differently and this differently and that differently.
Well, here's the thing, Brooke, is like that's the best case scenario. If you can win a fight and then be like, hey, I've got a ton of shit that I gotta fix, then that's great. Because too often people go in and they win a match and they're like, okay, what do I fix?
Yeah.
You know,
like
so this is actually the best possible circumstance to come out with a victory and also tons of stuff to fix. Like this was wrong. I can work on this. I can work on, because sometimes it's hard when you have wins to find like, what does my game need? You know, you can mow through somebody and I've had matches where it almost felt effortless and I didn't gain anything from the win, you know? And so that's a bad spot to be in where you're like, I did all this work and I trained, but like I learned nothing in this match. So it's actually a good thing. Don't look at it as a bad thing. Hey,
like, I'm pretty
I'm
like after she had posted it on YouTube, I mean, shit, ask Morgan, like I watched it probably 5 or 6 different times and I was just picking myself apart like right and left. But at the end of the day, like I need to realize too, like this is my first fight, you know? Like I was trying, like for the past 2 weeks, like I was telling Ryan, like I'm gonna try to come up with a game plan. Like this is exactly what I'm gonna do. And the day of the fight, I'm like, fuck this. I'm not coming up with a game plan because that's not gonna fucking happen. So
well, I mean, and everything in jiu-jitsu, MMA, it doesn't matter what it is. I tell my guys it's the rule of 10, right? And it's just multiples of 10. The first 10 times you do anything in life, it doesn't matter if it's tie your shoes, drive a car, learn how to do an arm bar, throw a jab, whatever it is. The first 10 times you do it, it sucks and it's garbage. And anybody who watches it would say you are a piece of shit because you should not be doing that. And then if you do it 100 times, right? 10 times 10 is 100. If you do it 100 times, now it starts to look like something that we understand. Hey, that looks like a okay jab. You understand the jab. Hey, that looks like an arm bar. You know how to tie your shoes. Do it 1,000 times and nobody questions whether or not you know how to do it. Right. Now, okay. I've seen you do it 1,000 times. You know how to throw a jab. You know how to tie your shoelaces, whatever it is. 10,000 times you've mastered it. And that's everything in life, all things in life. It doesn't matter what it is. Do 10,000 arm bars and I guarantee you'll be great at arm bars. Do 10,000, hooks and I'm sure your left hook will be amazing. But it's a matter of getting that repetition in. And, honestly, like, I'm not sure how old you are. You look very, very young.
Thanks.
So,
I'm 28.
yeah, see, you're still just a baby. I'm an old man. But
People think I'm a lot younger.
yeah, but you know, you have plenty of time. That's the good thing about being, you know, youth has plenty of time to work on that stuff.
Hmm.
You're not supposed to be there yet.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
and a lot of people, and that's the thing, is a lot of people get discouraged because, oh man, I'm training and it's not there. Well, no, it's not supposed to be there. You haven't done
Yeah.
it enough. You not only haven't done enough, you haven't had enough time to do it.
Right.
You know?
And I think too, like a lot of times at the gym too, like I do get very discouraged because like, you see Ryan, who's such a fucking badass, and then you have Ian and you have Tyrone, who are just natural athletes, and Timmy, he's 17 years old and he's amazing. And you just see all of them and you're like, I want to be at that level. Like I compare myself to like Ryan's level. I'm like, I want to be at that level, but I have to just take a step back sometimes and realize like it's all a learning process.
Yeah, well, and that kind of leads back to the powerlifting thing. When I was lifting, like I said, my buddy Levi, he's a 500-pound bencher. Like I was trying to keep up with him, and so I was trying to measure my lifting ability with his lifting ability, and I was never going to catch him, you
Right.
know. And then there was one day I remember he kind of like pulled up the NFL stats, and it was like the average bench press of like linebackers, or the average bench press of, and I was like, oh my God, I'm hanging with linebackers as far as my bench press goes. You know, like when I'm talking about like I was doing amazing stuff. It was just compared to him, it didn't equate.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think if you look, same thing, like you look at yourself as far as an MMA fighter, I think you're outperforming other 115-pound women.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I mean, I've watched some pretty wonky fights, and I think mine and Harley's fight was decently technical. Like it didn't look like, we didn't know what we were doing. So I'm happy with it. At the end of the day, I'm happy. It was fun. I mean, I'll fight her again. I mean, she's a really nice girl. Like we were talking after the fight, just, and added each other on social media. Like she's cool, but if she wants to fight again, I will absolutely fight her again.
But
So.
as a friend and guy that used to manage that, you don't need to fight her again. Not that you don't want to, but you won. Like, just move on.
Yeah.
That's the worst mistake you can make, is keep fighting somebody that lost because they want to.
Right.
Like, you don't, and nothing against her, right? Like she wants to fight you again because she lost, but just move on. And kind of what you both were saying, it's you're a product of your environment. It's awesome to test yourself or want to be like those people, right?
Yeah.
There's a great study, and I don't remember the study, but it's kind of I guess could be taken the wrong way, but let me tell you the study, and it's about 10 years ago. But if I hung out with overweight people, there's a better chance that I'm going to be overweight, right? Because if I hung out with all my friends that love to eat donuts, we're probably going to go eat donuts because we love to
Who
eat
doesn't
donuts.
love to eat donuts?
Exactly. So I need to hang out with people that don't like to eat donuts, right? Like I need to hang out with people that are like, dude, if you put that in your body, you know what it's going to do to you? And I'm like,
yes.
Shut up. Quit telling me what to do, but that person is going to make me a better person.
Yes, I agree.
That's what you have as a team, and that's where you need to be. And I've also, I've trained fighters on and off for years, and currently I don't. I've got a couple, but like I'm purposely out of it. But the point is, there's a point where I tell people too that were my fighters, like, hey, you need to move on. Like if you've outgrown the gym, it's not my job to keep you here because you're my ticket to fame. My job is to tell you, why don't you move on, because you can beat everybody here. In order to make you the best that you can be, you need to move on. And for example, I had a guy named Billy Ash, who's deceased now, but he was a King of the Cage world champion at 185, 16-0. But I had to make that decision early on because he could destroy everybody at my gym. And I was like, hey man, you need to move on. And I made a good relationship with Rich Franklin out of George Gurgel. And I said, hey man, you need to talk to Rich and move on. And he did. And he went on to win a couple more fights. But ultimately, like he found out, he I don't remember what he's probably 18-0 or maybe more, but he found out before he died that maybe this wasn't the best thing for him, because he wasn't like, he was 18-0, and then he was like, man, they're trying to match me up with other guys that are 18-0. They're trying to kill me. I was like, well, no shit, you're 18-0. Like, that's what happened. He wasn't ready for that, right? And so we figured something out. We figured out that he wasn't ready for that. But the point was, I had to put him with those people to see where he's at. And if I had to also bite a bullet as a trainer and say, am I giving him the best that he needs right now? And I looked in the mirror at night and I said, you know where, I'm not. The fact that he can beat everybody here and I can't teach him anything more, he needs to move on if I'm going to truly make him the best he can be. And then that's ultimately why I thought he was in the best environment, because I could tell him truthfully, I say, hey man, you got to move. And he did. And it was actually a great thing for a little while until things weren't great. And ultimately, like I said, he's dead now. But you're in the perfect environment, I think. Because I know Ryan Carroll, and for guys that don't know him, Ryan's a fighter and a jiu-jitsu brown belt and owns a gym in Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Also to interrupt, Ryan Carroll, first team all body. I don't know if it's coming up, but like,
look at them shredded abs.
Oh my God, he's so pretty.
Yes.
Yeah,
he is a badass, let me tell you.
The fact that Gary
love
and I
that man.
A really pretty girl and he's looking at guys tells you how beautiful Ryan is, right?
She's not interested in me anyway. It doesn't matter.
She's not, but it's still still very odd. That being said, it is what it is. But yeah. But no, Ryan has it all. And you ended up the right place because, like you said, I'm friends with Mike Shepard, I'm friends with Jason Cable, I'm friends with Ryan Carroll. Currently Ryan's to disclose all the information, Ryan's an affiliate of Gary and I's, which means we love him, right? So I'm going to talk extra good about him. But that being said,
I'm sure he's watching right now too. So
yeah, well, hopefully.
Don't talk shit.
You guys got a place where somebody truly cares about you. I wish I could have made it this weekend. We had a blizzard, and besides the blizzard, I probably wouldn't have made it anyway. I was super busy, but I was looking at all the team pictures and all the guys that I met at the last promotion. It's beautiful, man. This is what you want as a team. You want a team. Gary, I don't know if you saw the pictures in the video, but the fact that you guys had 10 plus people in all the pictures and everybody's talking about each other and everybody's loving their coach and they're loving the fighters. And that's what you want. Like, you don't want like Brooke just said, like, because I've just saw this recently where, like another fighter was like, hey, I did great. And then the other coach is like, don't forget to mention me. Like, you don't want that. Like,
you're hitting home now, Butch. You're hitting home now. Like I've experienced that shit and I lived through that shit. Like, hey, what about me? You didn't say my name out loud.
Exactly. No, and I did too, and I think ultimately that's why most of us, Gary and I, like, not Brooke, but why we ended up different places is, I had partners at one time and I would train all the fighters and they would go fight. And at the end of the fight, if they won, they would say, I'd like to thank Butch for all the help that he gave me. And they wouldn't mention the other people that owned the gym because they didn't help. They weren't even there. Right.
Yeah.
Next day, the other people would be like, why didn't you mention me? Like, blah, blah, blah. And it was like a big, spot of contention. And ultimately, that's why I have my gym, which is Butch Osborne Jiu-Jitsu. There's a point I had to get away from my other partners because they're like, you're not meant. And I'm like, well, you didn't do anything. Like, I didn't ask them to mention me. I literally don't, and it's the same for you, Brooke. Like, the fact that you came on here actually and mentioned, hey, I trained with Mike Shepard and Jason Cable, even though you don't train currently, is a testament to you as an individual saying, I want to give credit to everybody that's helped me along the way, including your training partners who you also mentioned my name, including your girlfriend who you mentioned my name. Like, listen, man, like, this is not scripted. You don't have to get on here and mention anybody. You can be like, Brooke fucking Knight, and I fucked this girl up, and here I am, and I'm going to the UFC, and you're gonna have to fucking deal with it.
I'm going to the UFC. I mean, that would be badass, but I don't know.
You have time. Well, and that was kind of my next question as I'm going to exit stage left to go tinkle, but and I will be able to hear you, so it's okay.
I'm
I
not
will
gonna
keep
be able
you-
to hear you tinkling, right?
That's what I was
hope
hoping.
not. I hope not.
I love
I'll
that.
mute. I'll mute. But
Okay.
what is the plan for the next fight? What do you have as an idea for the next fight?
Well, Morgan here not accidentally, actually
Notice
got
Gary
in.
shit, so we can't hear this thing.
Oh,
But anyway,
okay.
you know what I'm saying?
Anyway,
Go
so Morgan wants to fight in June. So I think that they're having another NLC cage fight in June. So I think we're all going to try to do that one. And a couple people from the gym actually want to do it too, like Tyrone and Ian. Ian wants to get in one last fight because he's going to the army. So, and then I think Timmy wants to fight too because he'll be 18 now. So it'll be just a big Ronin family thing that we're going to do.
Well, let me mention this too. So, as an outsider who only sees you guys here and there, right? Out of the two of you, Morgan seems like the badass person. She seems mean. Am I not right? You're looking at me kind of weird. She seems like the meter person. Like I am just like literally only person that sees you. This is like the fourth time I've seen you. One at the
I'm looking at her right now and she's looking at me.
and like when I look at you two, she seems like she's got like an attitude. Is that not true?
Yes, it's true. So her and I actually, during like this whole fight camp this month, she hasn't been coming to the gym that much.
Why?
Well, because she basically wanted to give me my space and let me train. Because every time her and I roll together or spar together, there's a lot of name calling.
Yeah, well, that's a good
She
point.
gets real pissed at me. So
Bring us through the whole confrontation where one of you called the other a fucking cunt. Let me get through.
oh. Dang it.
Are you
Yeah.
allowed to say that? First of all, I don't think that's your word, Butch. I don't think you're allowed to say it.
I'm not allowed to say, but they specifically called one of the. This is verbatim.
I'm just.
So-
I understand. I'm just saying
you.
that maritime law is the only time that you're allowed to say that. If you're on the water outside of U.S. area, then you can say that word because of maritime law. But outside in the United States, we're not allowed to use that word. My wife has told me, she's made it very clear that that's not our word.
Yeah.
Well, no,
She basically called me that because she knows I hate that word.
yeah.
But yeah, so we were just rolling one day and she had got out of my guard and was like trying to get around. And then I like grabbed both of her legs and just pushed her straight to the fucking mat. She hit her back so hard, jumped up, called me a fucking cunt, tried to attack me. Yeah, everybody at the gym was just dying. So, yeah.
So how does this work? So if you guys fight like that inside the gym, what happens when you go home? And not, like is it?
Oh no, we're perfectly fine when we get home.
Are you? That's awesome.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
beautiful.
I mean, yeah, it's couples therapy, she said.
Yeah.
So
Listen, she's welcome to jump on your couch if she wants to.
Yeah,
Kelly.
join the conversation. That's fine.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh no.
now we got the dogs.
The dogs.
Maybe
The dogs think you're fighting. That's what it is.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm sorry. Guys. Stop. You're fine.
that messed everything up, Morgan.
I know. Always.
The dog's mouth shut.
Guys, we're on live Facebook.
This is
here.
live right now, guys. You don't need to be acting like that.
They're very good though. They listen to that.
I think they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Explain
good.
your side of the story, Morgan. When one of you, so was it Brooke that called you a cunt, or you called her?
No, I called her that. Okay. I'm very dramatic. And so she swept me and I hit the ground so hard because we get a little aggressive with each other when we're sparring or when we're rolling. We're both guilty of that. And I knew it would make her so mad if I said that because she absolutely hates that word. And I don't use that word on the regular. Like that is not part of my vocabulary. But so I just was mad and dramatic and hopped up and I literally like jumped on her and said that. And it was over. But afterwards, we were fine.
So Gary, I feel like you need to hop in here because I know most of the story. Like, does it?
I'm going to say, first of all, Morgan, I don't believe you. I think you use that word all the time. I think it's your favorite word.
No, she knows she knows I would kick her ass if she did.
No, I don't use that word unwarranted. If it's warranted, yeah, I mean,
Was it,
but
so when you didn't do the right thing and you got swept, it was warranted?
Yeah, no, it's
you made the mistake in order to get swept.
Yeah, you're right. I mostly just get mad. It's one of those things where I'm really frustrated with myself, and I'm frustrated because I'm like, Brooke and I should be on the same level, and this should not be happening to me right now, which makes it really hard to train with your like significant other. Like, it's really hard to train with your significant other because of that. But women don't really do this sport, so we don't have another option.
Exactly right. And so that's it's interesting that you guys have this, right? Because like not that Lisa doesn't train. I don't know if she does or not, but my wife doesn't train. And so I don't have the experience of like coming home and being like, oh man, I was in 50-50 and then this happened and then I was swept out of this and the guy came up on top, passed my guard, got into side control. I don't get to have that conversation with anybody at home because nobody at home is doing it at the level that I'm doing it. And so it's interesting that you guys have that really, like, you get to experience that together and then also be like, you're also each other's kind of rivals. That's interesting.
Yeah, we're training partners and rivals at the same time. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's also like, so it's so badass that we both like share something in common. Like, we both have the same hobby. Like, she's wanting to do kickboxing match, and I'm gonna be there to support her like she was there to support me. So it's awesome. We enjoy it.
Gary too, they both competed in the last WBGO, or one of the last, right? And
yeah,
and you guys were both like very hatred animals towards me when I was reffing your matches.
We had to go against each other because no one, which sucked.
Yeah, that sucked.
It sucked.
Had I known,
here I am 110 pounds and I have to go against a 160-pound girl. So
I didn't know you guys were dating, and then that was extremely awkward because then it was like one of you were, I don't remember the thing, but I just remember like hugging you both, and I was like, don't be mad. I didn't, like one of you were mad, and it was like it just seemed awkward, and I was like, hey guys, like calm down, and you're like, fuck you, like you're like you're mean to me, but I still love you. I mean, nice, like it's okay. It's like like when I have to take off the promoter hat to referee, I know everybody hates me, and you guys were nice. That other girl from wherever she was from, Jeremy Deskin's place, right? Samantha, her name, or maybe I'm just guessing, but she was great, right? But that was like your first tournament, am I right? And you guys started, and so I didn't even know you guys are like, but I was just being friendly. I was like, man, you just, because everybody was new and they were nervous, and I was like, hey man, just relax. And it's hard. It's easier said than done. You guys are a little angry at me, I think, right? Is that right?
No.
Mainly you, Morgan, because I feel like I hugged you a lot. Like,
I'm just a jerk. I am the villain today. Dang, guys.
Stop. You're not. Nah, it's all right. Listen, I don't like him sometimes either. It's okay.
Oh, no. I mean, sorry, dropping the phone here. I think at the end of the day, like, I am a lot more calm person than Morgan. Like, I don't get angry at things. Like, I love sparring and I love getting hit. Like, and then, you have Morgan over here who doesn't enjoy it at all.
I'm just really emotional. That's why I didn't fight in this. Like, I didn't take a fight in this time because I'm very emotional and I'm working on that. Like, I get really mad in the gym and I get frustrated with myself and I get frustrated with everyone else. So, it's like Brooke's just super calm and she's chill all the time. And I'm just like,
like, I think Morgan like takes it a little bit too personally. And just like, after Harley and I got done fighting, like, I think at one point I was like, yeah, like, this is nothing personal. Like, it's strictly business. And like, we gave each other a hug. And so.
Well,
Yeah.
I identify more with Morgan. So, yeah, you're trying to, anytime somebody tries to beat me, they're trying to take something away from me. And I take that personal. That shit's personal. Why are you taking this shit away from, it's my stage. And this is my glory, and you tried to take this away from me. And it doesn't matter how small it is. It doesn't matter if we're just busting balls and making jokes. It doesn't matter if we're doing jujitsu. Why are you stepping on my toes and trying to take it's my shine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did you feel, Morgan, about the girl that was fighting your girlfriend? Like, were you like, do you want to kill her? How did you feel about this?
So I honestly, like, I looked her up on Instagram a lot, and I was watching her videos, and I watched the video that was like promoting her fight, and like, nothing against her, but she's a beginner. And so I saw that and I was like, I think that Brooke can win, but also I don't want Brooke to go out and be like, I'm gonna win and then get her shit knocked out. So, but the whole day I was nervous. I was nervous mostly because I didn't want to see something bad happen to her. And I told everybody, I told people at work, I told my parents, I said, if this girl hurts Brooke unofficially, I will be the next one to fight her in that cage right after. But yeah. I wouldn't actually do that. I was fine because Brooke trains her ass off. She works hard. When she wants something and she'll get it. So I had full confidence in her. I just didn't want to see anything bad happen to her.
Yeah.
It's complicated, right? And that's beautiful because like you got to experience what Gary and I've probably experienced a lot as coaches, right? Is you have no control.
Yeah.
So you just watch, right? And you're screaming for Brooke to do whatever you think, but Brooke's not listening to you. She probably listened to Ryan. And it's have no control, and it's the most gut-wrenching experience of your life, right? It's complicated, and somebody you really care about, and you can't help them. And Gary and I both talked, this coaching somebody's way worse than actually fighting, because at least I have control over myself. Mm-hmm. And whatever happens, I blame myself. And when I'm watching my teammates, it's so nerve-wracking, not even as a coach, it's just even as a teammate, it's so unbelievably crazy. And you had to go through it, which is amazing. It's an amazing experience for both of you guys, right? Because you've been through it now, and luckily you're victorious, and maybe there's some more. And Morgan, maybe you do some, maybe you don't, it doesn't matter. But like the cool thing I think is you guys are both starting this journey together. So Gary, I don't know how much you know about these girls, but they're both like relatively new, right? How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu and MMA again?
Well, she has only been doing it since October.
No.
Well,
you're fine.
Over everything.
I want to see you fight over it. Fight.
That's it.
Yeah, it'll be great.
I started training at the doghouse, and I started training at the doghouse about a year ago, actually. It's been about a year, and I met some great people there, some great people who helped me. But it didn't feel like the gym for me. And I think that, that's just a thing. Like Brooke and I used to lift weights at Planet Fitness, and we started lifting at a local gym because it just was a better fit. That's just, so then I was mainly focused on kickboxing. So then in October, I reached out to Ryan after there were some fights that went on locally. And Ryan had some fighters, or he was a commissioner at the fights. And so I reached out to him, and then we started doing MMA, and that's when we both started doing jiu-jitsu. So it's only been since October that we've like been seriously
committed.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Like October to March is, Gary, what, 6 months? I'm not great at math.
Roughly, yeah.
Well, I mean, most people don't fight in their first MMA fight till at least a year, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
And it's actually, just so you know, it's only 5 months.
Yeah.
It's not even a half a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, honestly.
And like also like a huge shout out to like Harley, my opponent. Like she's only been training for this for a month. I mean, she said, yeah, we were talking in the cage and she said that she's like her and her husband like have done like been training for jujitsu, and she's done a couple of jujitsu tournaments like I have. But as she said, she's only been training MMA like since she found out she was fighting me, and that's been like a month. So shout out to her for doing that. Yeah.
Are bad at like, so Gary and I've been training since 1997. I've not done shit like that. That's fucking crazy. You guys are like,
man,
really,
listen, I'm a coward. I do jujitsu because I'm a coward. I'm afraid that I'm gonna get hurt. I just want to be better at defending myself and hope that whatever skills that I've learned over the last decade that they will parlay themselves into me going home to my family. I don't do jujitsu, and MMA is scary as shit for me. So.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I separate them. Like I want to do kickboxing fights and jujitsu tournaments, but I don't want to put them together. That's too much to think about. Like
her anxiety is too high for that.
and that's perfectly fine. That's the thing. Like, do not do something you don't want to do, right? Like, and we say this as coaches, Gary and I both, right? Like, listen, man, there's no reason. Like, if that's not your dream, don't do it. Maybe that's your girlfriend's dream and she wants to do it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it, or vice versa. Maybe Brooke does this fight and she's like, that was good. Let me concentrate on this, right? Do whatever your passion is. Maybe if that's just one thing, maybe it's not. Maybe it's so weird. It's like, we all say like, live your dream. Nobody knows what that is, but nobody knows what you felt like that night either, Brooke. Like just yesterday, right? Like literally it was yesterday. It was crazy that it was only one day ago and we're having this interview.
Yeah, one day.
And maybe that's a feeling that you love, that you're like, you want to have again, or maybe that's a feeling you're like, that was good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, a couple people on my team reached out to me and they were like, are you going to do it again? I was like, fuck yeah, I want to do it again. Like, that was badass. I loved it. I had so much fun. Because I told Ryan, like, before the fight, I was like, well, I'm either going to love it or I'm going to hate it.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're going to love it.
And you found out. And like I said, you did this on such short notice, right? And training notice, right? You might have been involved in all this stuff. And you guys do a lot of great stuff. But for example, in my gym, I won't let anybody compete until they're a blue belt, or I don't train fighters anymore. And the point was, there was multiple things, not anything against what you did, but it was more or less like we had Rough and Rowdy and all that stuff. Ruckus in the Cage was in Charleston a lot. So I would get phone calls 2 weeks out and somebody would be like, hey, I got a fight in 2 weeks. Can you train me? And I'd be like, fuck you. No, I can't train you, because like they're going to announce they train at my gym and they've only been there for 2 weeks. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, so you don't want that reputation.
No, and it was part of the rule. And I was like, no, I'm not. And it was also very annoying. It was like, that's all I heard. And then people would show up for 2 weeks.
Well, the other thing too is like on top of that, it's not just like, I don't want them. It's not that I want somebody who loses training at my gym. It has nothing to do with that. I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are and what you represent. And you coming in and training 2 weeks in my gym doesn't give me the time to know whether or not you're a good person or not. You know, and that's the bigger thing. Listen, if my guys, if I'm training guys who go on to be champions or go on to be like stockbrokers, I don't care where they go in life. I want them to be good people. And I don't want to train somebody who's slimy and shitty and nasty person. And I would much rather never have trained somebody who won anything. I don't want to train anybody who won anything, as long as the people that I train are good people. I want that is first and foremost. Is I need people who are decent people. And to come in at 2 weeks notice and be like, hey, I've got a Rough and Rowdy fight coming up in 2 weeks. Can you train me up?
No, that's a great point, because we've had people at the gym that I didn't know very well, and we were actually just talking about this today. And I'll give you the worst. But anyway, we're talking about this today at my gym. We had an open mat at 11 a.m. and then we rolled for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then at the end we always sit there and kind of talk and decompress. But couple of people asked me where so-and-so was, they were so-and-so. And I was like, hey, here's the deal with so-and-so. I'm trying to think of some politically correct ways, but anyway, there's a couple guys that got in trouble for stuff, right? And so like I had to work through it. Like they're like, hey, I'll just cut to the bullshit, but there was a couple guys that were like,
what happened to John?
It wasn't John, but I'm trying to think of nice ways. There's no nice ways to put it, but there's a couple guys that got in trouble for maybe child sex things, right? Pedophilia.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, I know exactly. That's why it took me 10 minutes to figure out how to say it, but where it could be true and it could not be true. So the point was, if I only knew them for 2 weeks and the same charges came up, like that's not good. Because I've been through this with another organization where a guy fought on the organization who they didn't know. And I'm just talking like Dana White was the promoter of the UFC and this guy fought. Turns out he was actually in this case, it wasn't the UFC, but this guy was a Nazi, right? And so then there was a lot of, hit back for him being a Nazi and being racist and all this shit. And it just blew up, right? The same thing kind of could happen at my gym where somebody had some child sex things and I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want pedophilia, that kind of stuff at my gym. But the point is, if I don't know them and then they go fight in 2 weeks, that's the worst of the worst. And then I'm going to have to like defend this guy, or not even defend him, or just answer for my stupidity for the rest of the time, meaning that, why did you let this guy fight? Why did you train this guy? And my answer is going to be, I didn't know this guy, and nobody gives a shit. They're going to say, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. He showed up, he wanted to fight. I trained him. Here we are. And I've been through this, right? And again, it doesn't matter what happens at the end. If you're charged for these things, you're kind of guilty until proven innocent. It's the opposite, right? And in the case that I'm trying to bring up, this guy was fine. He was fine, but it still was a thing, right? And if I had to deal with it, it's not something like I do this for fun, right? This is my hobby. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy talking to you two, right? I enjoy talking to Gary. You guys are my friends, and this is a hobby that we all enjoy. But if all of a sudden all of you guys are drug addicts or pedophiliacs or whatever the hell, then it's not fun anymore, right? Then I want to step out, right? And that's what I'm saying. What Gary's making the point is, I don't know you at 2 weeks. Like if you show up and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, go ahead and use my name. I don't give a shit. So they fight. I'm like at Butch Hiles Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm at Ryan Carroll's Ronin MMA. I'm at Starbrook Jiu-Jitsu or Bobcat MMA and then we have to answer like, oh, did you know your fighter used to do this? He used to beat women. And like, no, we didn't know. It doesn't fucking matter at that point. Like we're guilty by association, right?
Yeah.
And that's the uncomfortable truth of this stuff, right? Which doesn't matter. The point is that's not the whole thing, but you got to be careful, right?
I agree.
Yeah, and I guess to cut it down here, luckily I know you guys, and this has zero to do with what we're talking about, but you guys are, beautiful people. Like I knew from day one that I met you. We talked like it. The two of you and I did not know each other from anybody, right? The time you showed up for jiu-jitsu, didn't know who the hell you were, but I talked to you as you were my friends, and I didn't even. I swear to God, I didn't even know you from Ryan's, right? I honestly didn't know. We just sat and talked, and then I joked with you, and you joked with me, and I think we hugged, and we shared tears, and we, like, because I care. Right?
Yeah, cried whenever Joe got his brown belt.
The other night, Gary, just I gave my speech to like let's talk about this for a second, but I gave a speech where I was like, my wife will get mad because my kids were born. And I don't even know if I cried when my kids were born, even though it was very important.
Yeah.
I cried when I gave my best friends colored belts. And I was like,
you're not wrong, because I cried too.
Yeah. And it's funny because everybody looked at me like I was weird and they laughed. And then lo and behold, we gave, his name's Joe, right? We gave Joe Villers, right? Am I right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Joe Villers, a brown belt, and he's been training for a long time. But anyway.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Brooke and Morgan, and they're crying, and I was like, I told you.
I was crying when Ryan got his stripes too.
Yeah.
And
It
like
did
back
make-
to Joe for a second, like I think the reason why like that made Morgan and I so emotional because like, I mean, there's been times where, Ryan's been hurt, like, he's hurt his ribs or freaking almost breaks his ankle. And Joe really steps in, and like really tries to help us out and puts in the work. So he's been super helpful throughout everything too. And I think that's why it made us so emotional because we're pretty close with him as well. So
It does, because we know, and that's kind of the part of the speech is we know the journey, right? Like for example, you guys, we're all friends now. The three, the four of us, right? We're all
Yes.
friends.
I hope so. I don't want to beat up.
we're buddies.
Yeah.
Listen, outside of that cage, I'm like literally the kindest person, just not to Morgan.
But like when you guys get your blue belt, Gary and I will probably be sad in a weird way. Not sad that you got your blue, but like sad because we know what it took to get that blue belt. Because Gary and I have been, and we know the emotional stress has been on your relationship, the emotional stress has been on your training, the fights, the competitions, all of that. And again, my wife doesn't get that. Like she thinks it's just another day. Now you're getting a colored belt and it doesn't mean it. And she's like, well, you didn't cry when your kids were born. And I'm like, well, I did inside of my head. You didn't quite.
I did inside my head.
I didn't have to give a fucking speech, right? Like I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Today, my son Jack is born. He's
9 months ago, your mom and I decided.
When it's your turn, I've known her since she just started, and then it makes you emotional. Like it's a different thing. It doesn't mean that it's just, and you guys get it, right? It's so and so anyway, that was the speech, and we all kind of got and I don't even know your guys as well as you know them, right? And I was still like tugging at my heartstrings looking at you. That's the other thing is people, it's just like if somebody tells a joke and I don't think it's that funny, but Gary's laughing and you guys are laughing, I'm probably gonna laugh because it's like it's contagious, right?
Yeah.
If I give this speech and then all of a sudden now Gary's crying and you're crying, I'm like all of a sudden I feel sad. It's the same thing. Like I see everybody's face, I'm like, holy shit, like I don't know what's going on, but I feel really sad right and that was a great night for guys that don't know what happened is, we came and we did promotions in Parkersburg kind of late at night. And you guys
and then was it beat up still at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah. Well, and then on top of that, I had to drive to
Columbus.
And I was half lit because I was drinking a bunch of, Red Bull and vodka, but it was not comfortable, but I felt good because, all the things that we said and the things that it meant, but, like I'm proud, even though I don't know you in the way that Ryan knows you, the way the coach knows you, is that I'm proud of you because I mean that in the fact that I know what it takes to get where you guys have gotten. That's what I mean. It doesn't mean that like you're like, you pat your kid on the head and I'm proud of you, son. I'm proud of you, whatever. You're like, no, like I know what it meant to get to where you got. You've been through hell. You probably fought with each other. You probably fought with whoever. And I know because you guys called each other cunts and you did whatever.
Well,
I mean, even like as far as like a relationship goes, like, during this whole fight camp for myself, like it's definitely taken a huge toll on our relationship because there's times, like we'll all work all day and then I'll be at the gym until 8:30 9 o'clock. And then I just want to come home and go to bed. So we don't really get to spend a lot of time together. So it's been hard, as much as I will like want to fight again, like it's kind of like a relief now that it's over. So we can kind of have a normal life just for a little bit. And we're getting ready to go to Texas too. So I'm pretty pumped for that.
We're going on vacation.
Great. Well, and that's the biggest.
Where in Texas though?
It's Fort Worth. It's like 40 minutes outside Dallas.
It's basically Dallas.
It's basically Dallas. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that, like, I understand that though. Like, when I was heavy into competition and not that I was ever going to be anything amazing, but I was trying to be, right. And I would run 35 to 40 miles a week and I was eating right. And I would train 5 to 6 times a day, sometimes twice a day in order to like try and get as good as I could. And when I came home, my family had to make a lot of sacrifices. My kids, my wife, they had to make a lot of sacrifices for me to try and get there. And so, like, I understand that. And I think that is what me and Butch, like, when we see somebody like you guys, like, that's what we admire, is like, we know the sacrifices that go into it. It's not easy. If you want to be great at anything, like, there's a lot of suck that goes along with being great. There's a lot of suck that goes along with being great. And people don't recognize that. They think they look at people who have achieved stuff and they're like, man, it must be nice. But they never say, man, that took a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really does. And like I said, you know, she's been an amazing support system through everything. I mean, there's times I come home and like there's dinner ready, and so she's been pretty cool about it all.
So what she says,
it's also sucks too, because I've been really missing my dogs. Haven't got to spend a lot of time with them, but
about Morgan,
it's all good.
It's all about
fine.
the dogs.
I'm just the bitch. I clean, I cook. She's off here doing her thing.
Yeah.
All I know is I didn't say the C word. That's all I know. I didn't say that stuff. Hey,
I told her, I was like, I don't even want to go to Texas. I'm gonna miss the dogs.
So it kind of leads me into, and I think you ladies will understand what I'm saying. I got a couple questions for you. The first one is just your opinion, if I'm right or not. Guys are the worst, but also the best.
Guys?
That's awesome.
Guys, they suck.
For people that can't see their faces, it just gave like a furrowed brow. Like, what?
They're terrible, but they can also be the best people to be around.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the guy. It really does.
Honestly,
that's what I'm saying. They suck.
To be honest with you, like, I would rather hang out with guys than females. Like, I get along with guys better. So
but the worst people you know are also guys, right?
Yes. I'll answer that for her.
So what I'm saying
I would have to disagree.
This is what I'm saying. The worst people are guys, but also the best people are guys.
Yeah.
Except for obviously
females are shady. Though.
I was gonna say Brooke's the best person. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, more generalities, but like
expand upon what Gary's saying. I will echo what my wife has said before recently, but she said I have more guy friends than girls, and the reason is girls are more catty than guys. And I didn't know exactly, but it just definitely meant that there's a lot of competition involved, where guys are so fucking clueless that you can do whatever, right? Like, you know, man, like that makes little sense, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
And you'll also notice when I was at your gym the other day, and you guys were awesome, and everybody was rolling to, so Gary says, so, you know, everybody's rolling to get stripes and do this and do that. And I was watching, and Ryan was watching, but a lot of times you guys would ask people to roll, and these guys might be 240, 250. Like, are you serious? Like, and you're like, yeah, I'm serious. Right.
Yeah.
And, okay. And then you guys would roll, and it was beautiful. Honestly, it really was. It was fun, but they were like shocked that you asked, right? Like, because you would stand there and you didn't have nobody to roll with, and you'd be like, all right, I'll pick the biggest motherfucker in the room. And you're like, you want to roll? And they'd be like, I guess. Are you sure? And you're like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And then it became not awkward once you start rolling. And they're like, yeah, she's trying to kill me. And
yeah, and it still sucks because they're still bigger than you. They're still gonna beat you almost every single time. But, you know, I never realized the importance of that. Whenever we first started jiu-jitsu, I was like, I don't want to roll with these sweaty guys. I'm just gonna roll with you all the time. And then we went to our first tournament, and the girl was like massive compared to us. Yeah. Like, compared to both of us. I mean, I have like 30-40 pounds on Brooke, and she probably had 30-40 pounds on me because she was tall and just big. And I didn't realize how important it is to roll with people that are bigger than you, especially Jake that's at our gym. Like, he's tall, he's big, Joe's brother.
And a badass, Gary. So you don't.
Yeah, he's a badass.
No, I know Jake. I know Jake.
Yeah,
he has a great story about you fucking him up. He's a beautiful, nice guy. No, honestly, and I mean this in the nicest way to Jake as well. Jake is, I'm 6'6", maybe 6'5" since I'm old and I shrunk, and 240. Jake, when I look at Jake, I'm like, God damn, that guy's big. I don't know how big
He's
he is,
huge.
but I just look at it, and he was like, I just want you to know, when I roll with Gary, he made me feel like a little child. And I was like, well, thank God for Gary. That's all I can-
But you know,
well, I can tell you right now that I love Jake, and I think he's an amazing guy, and I can't wait till I see him again. I know
Yeah.
is he still working? Like, he travels a lot for work and stuff, right?
I'm not sure. I know that
Maybe
they
not.
live like over an hour away from the gym.
yeah, I think they live in Worth
So-
County.
It's hit or miss whether or not they're there.
But yeah, Jake's awesome. I love
Yeah.
Jake. He's a great
Yeah.
guy.
He got a beautiful beard,
He does.
does.
have
Oh,
a
yeah.
nice beard.
Gorgeous.
like the Kesha song. I like your beard. It's
I like
very
your
But-
beard.
Now the second question, and this doesn't necessarily, it's not a, I don't like to ask gender related questions. I like to ask questions just about shit that I don't know. What the hell is it like having that much hair and trying to
You're talking
fight
To me?
hair? Yeah,
Oh yeah, hair. Yeah, I have a lot of hair.
that shit gets in the way.
It took you a
Yeah,
while to
especially
clarify,
because like Morgan and I, like neither of us know how to braid hair. So a lot of the times I just have to pull it up, and at the gym when we're sparring, it's like all in my face and I'm like eating my hair. All the guys from the gym are eating my hair. It's stuck in their beards.
She
Yeah,
puts
it's
it in a ponytail. Like, she won't even put it in a bun.
Well, because it
No,
falls.
I'm
She's
gonna
got
tell
the-
you now. I'm gonna tell you now. That shit's annoying, and I hate it.
Yeah.
And it's gross.
Yeah,
I don't want
Ryan's
I don't want your hair in my mouth. So do something with that. But like, I'll never have that issue because like
do
I'm
something
so
with
said-
big,
he
that.
said-
like there's a nice little spot here. I've got the reverse yarmulke happening,
Oh
so
my
I don't
God.
have to worry about that. But like,
Gary,
but
just
it's
so you know,
gross.
I contacted Hims today to also get some minoxidil for my sake. So just so you know, I saw that Jennifer Lopez for hers. I was like, and it turns out Gronkowski has one for Hims. I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Gary's we're in the same boat. But anyway, these young girls don't have that problem. They just have a lot of fucking hair.
Yeah.
So have you?
Ryan's actually trying to get me to shave it off. That's fuck that.
Tell Ryan to shut the fuck up. You need
Yeah,
your
he wants me to pull some like Rose Namajunas type shit.
Nah.
hair.
Well,
He's-
see, at this point, that's where you ask Morgan, "What do you want?"
yeah. that's a good
Me?
point.
She don't want that.
Personally, I listen, you want my honest opinion?
Yes,
I
You
want
want her to
Brooke
have a shaved head? Yeah.
No,
That's
no,
what I'm
I want
asking.
her. I want her to get like 4 inches trimmed off her hair, but like I don't want her to shave her head, and she doesn't want me to shave my head. I'm already halfway there,
Yeah, that's what I'm
like
saying.
a quarter. I shaved off back here because it just kept falling out. So this is more convenient, but you know, neither
Yeah.
of us are shaving our heads.
So I guess what are you doing right now to control your hair?
Nothing. I just get out of the shower and brush it, and does its own
Brooke
thing.
doesn't control her hair. She lets it go everywhere, falls all over the gym floor. Ryan's got to sweep every single time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hey, it
Women
was
are-
braided for the
what I'm
fight.
saying, what I've been saying this whole time is women are pigs, and it's gross, and I don't like it.
But for people that are not watching this, these are two beautiful girls that have how long are your hair? Like mid back, right?
It's
Something like-
long, yeah.
My
Yeah.
hair's past my shoulders.
but honestly, so it's beautiful hair. I mean, you guys got nice hair compared to
Yeah.
Gary and I, who have like 1 inch hair that's falling out, and we're still big. We're probably just jealous of hair, basically, right?
I think that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's like I wish I could grow more hair, and I can't.
Basically,
nice.
All the hair has left my head and went to my back. So yeah.
Well, and that's where I will also say, like, y'all guys who want to roll like shirts off, which doesn't happen at our gym, but I know there are gyms where guys roll shirts off.
they should.
I will not
No.
feel your hairy chest and back. Like, that's worse. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that
What is-
shit goes. I
I've
mean, there was a
seen,
time.
what's the Adam Sandler movie where he's playing basketball and he gets stuck in the guy's hairy chest? You know what I'm talking about? In the picture.
Oh,
I don't know what movie that is, but I know what you're talking about.
I know the
make
scene.
at our gym as well, because it's like a running joke. I'm like, we're a fucking rash guard, but like my best friend Rick Bowman does not, and I end up licking his nipples all the time. And it's
Oh,
awkward. Yeah, it's not on purpose, right? But it's like, or vice versa. One time I mounted my friend Lee, and I sweat a lot because I'm a fat pig and I'm like 240 or whatever. But like a stream of sweat went straight in his mouth, and he'd decide like, am I a spitter or am I a swallower? And he turned out he's a swallower. Like, but he
Oh god.
gonna make a split second decision. He shouldn't have to make that decision. Anyway, just so you know.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a time I was rolling with the guy at the gym, and he has a bald head and sweats. It's actually Guy. You know Guy.
His name's Guy. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
Yeah, Guy.
So him and I love him to death, love him so much, but we'll roll together sometimes, and he has a bald head and sweats a lot, and I was literally gagging, like I almost threw up.
There's
Yeah.
no hair to catch the sweat.
No.
Yeah,
So
he was rubbing his head all over my face. and-
Forewarned. If we're ever in the same place, don't roll with me. Then I'm the sweatiest, nastiest, grossest guy in the world.
How
And
does
I know it.
I'll remember
What?
you.
How does a girl sweat compared to a guy? Honest question, not a question.
They
honest.
glow. They don't sweat. You didn't
Yeah.
know that?
That's what I assume. I also assume they
it's
don't.
well,
I feel like guys just have a different
Guy-
smell
guys-
to them too.
guys get like a little bit worse BO.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is good information. Can you please here? No, this is I'm being 100% honest because Gary and I don't have girls that can talk shit about us. Explain. Like, so if Gary and I were in a room with us, explain to us what we smell like, what we look like, what everything. Explain it all. So like, let's say that we had a 30-minute rolling match, one of us with one of you. Explain the whole thing. Hypothetically.
I'm leaving that one up to you.
Brooke said she's leaving. It depends. It depends because like I love
Hairy men. That
No.
I just
it depends because some guys I will just say some guys have better hygiene than others.
I agree.
Some guys take care of their clothes and their rash guards and wash it every single time they wear it and put deodorant on before, in between. Like some guys make sure that they're really clean
Mhm.
and some guys just don't care. And so that's what's hard is I feel like for the most part, women care. Like at least the women that we have at our gym so far that I've met, they care. And so like, I care really like a lot if I stink. So I'm always like making sure I don't stink, but that's the difference between a guy. So like Ryan, for example, Ryan's armpits get really stinky sometimes. They do, but also
he doesn't care.
Love you, Ryan.
no, I'm not saying he doesn't care. He can.
And
his-
every now and then he forgets to wash his rash guards. He leaves them at the gym.
to air out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but-
But
So
the stink comes
okay,
back
so
onto your
now
leg.
this leads me to this question: what's worse, really sweaty or kind of stinky?
Stinky.
Kind of stinky is worse.
Stinky.
So now
How many
I am a
people do you
winner
roll with?
because I
He
am
said he's a
really
winner.
sweaty. I'm really sweaty, but I am not kind of stinky. I come home, I take a shower before I go to jujitsu. I put on clean stuff, and then I
Yeah.
show up clean. Now I will
Well,
sweat, and I'm going to be sweaty, but it won't stink.
But
No
let
stink.
me follow
As long
this
as
up.
you smell good, that's fine.
Yeah, but let me follow this up because my wife also gets mad. She'll be like, she doesn't trust me because she'll be like, who the fuck showers before jujitsu? Like she'll be like, I don't even know if you're going to jujitsu. And the weird thing is when you shower before jujitsu, it opens your pores, right, Gary? So you actually sweat more. Is it not the reason I do it? Because I actually don't want to smell for you guys. For the exact same thing you just said. I'm like, I'm going to shower before jujitsu, then I will shower after. It's not like I didn't shower after. I'm going to do both. But the ironic thing is it actually makes you sweat more. So I'll like waterfalls will come out of, if I mounted you, there would be like, don't go chasing waterfalls to be like pouring in. It's fucking weird, right? But you can handle that as long as it doesn't stink, right? I guess is what we're
Yeah.
asking.
I don't
Okay.
know.
I mean,
don't think
I
do
can handle like
Like, all right,
sweaty.
whatever.
I can handle sweat, but if I'm rolling and trying to go for like a one arm triangle from side control and I have to have my head in your armpit and I'm gagging and about to throw up. No, that I will tap. I'll be like, I can't do this. Like,
Huh. So here's the weird thing. So like, since I boxed and stuff since like 1997, I cannot smell at all. Like, well, I guess at all is not proper because I can, like, if you guys were sitting eating like a, like, I don't know, like a football field of tuna, I would smell it, right? Or if you're like smoking a cigarette or weed, I can smell it. But by me smelling it means I can barely smell it. Where Gary, if he has a good like sense of smell, he would be like, holy shit, like I'm gonna throw up. Where like usually that's my thing. I'm like, if I can smell it, then you guys are screwed. Like, because that was the thing. Like when I have kids, I got 3 boys and they would shit their pants when they were little kids. I had no clue. And so my wife would come home and she'd be like, why did you let them sit here all day in their diaper? And I'm like, how would I know? Like the only way to know, no, I have no earthly idea. Like they're going to have to tell me if I need to change their diaper, right?
They're going to need to tell me.
Which is true, 100%. And which is awful. Just a side note, it's just awful during COVID because that's part of the COVID thing. And you lose your
can't smell.
Only way I know is somebody else would say, I can't smell it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's my everyday life. I don't know. But that being said, so jiu-jitsu doesn't bother me. You could like shit on my face and I wouldn't even know. It is a joke.
And I have. I'm just saying.
I know, Cleveland Steamer, because I am from Cleveland. It can happen. So, but yeah. So anyway, yeah. And my wife makes fun of us daily because she teaches our kickboxing classes. She comes up and she just looks and be like, man, you guys are gay. And she's non-stop, right? Because it's like she looks and she's like, she sees my legs and spread out as far as they can go. I'm very flexible, by the way. And she's like, I cannot imagine some other guy sitting on my face and you're like, that's perfectly fine, that's jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, well, I can't smell, so it's fine, but yeah. So these are real questions. What Gary's asking are real questions. I have no idea. So
I definitely had quite a few wieners in my face. You probably have too, huh?
Well, I mean, I don't really pay.
Shocked. She's like, what?
I said what?
Well, and that's the exact same thing I say to my wife all the time, but she would look less shocked than
She's like, the fuck?
Yeah, she's like, my wife. I call her Brazilian teabag. That way it doesn't seem gay. I was like, it's just a teabag. That's what they do in Brazil. And she says, but you can smell that shit, huh? Yeah. That's a weird question. I know, but it's Gary's question.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
My question was about hair.
We're confused for a second.
My original question was hair. What do you do with your hair, and is it annoying?
Well, it literally goes to like people teabagging you, Gary. That's where it goes.
What do you do with your hair? Teabag. It's kind of the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. So what's the weird? So that's a good question then, I guess. So Gary and I are saying we don't like to be teabag. What's the weirdest part of jiu-jitsu for you? I guess because we joke. I make a joke about it in my jiu-jitsu class daily. I'm like, hey, I say this so that you remember, and then they're like, yeah, they laugh. Like, what is the weirdest part of jiu-jitsu for you guys? I guess going with other guys and the weirdest, and they're heavy. Is it just it doesn't have to be like we're joking, but it doesn't have to be like goofy. Like, is it being in side body where you're getting smashed, north south, mounted? Literally some big fat guy sitting on your face trying to Kimura you, or awkward question.
Anatomy.
Yeah. Anatomy.
I think the only thing that's ever been weird for me is whenever a guy's penis is touching my back.
Touching your back.
I mean, nothing really. There's nothing really weird. I mean,
that got really weird. I was not expecting that answer, Gary.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Yeah, I know. Do they not have cups?
We're all to the at the point now.
It probably is a cup. Yeah, it's probably not all the guys wear cups.
Unless they're getting a hard one or something.
Oh gosh, Brooke, come on.
Okay. Now I'm gonna say right now, I've never known anybody who had a hard on at jiu-jitsu.
You
Well,
never
I'm
know.
not, I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen. I'm just saying I've not known it. But
Most of the guys don't wear cups at our gym. I don't think.
I don't wear one, and I haven't worn one. I wore one for like maybe a week, and it was like, this just gets in the way of jiu-jitsu. Like,
Yeah.
nobody really kicks or hits, as long as I position myself where nobody's knee slicing over my testicles, and I'll be okay. So
Yeah.
but
Let me-
I will say that rolling with women, like, breasts are an issue, and it's weird trying to do jiu-jitsu, and I wrestled in high school too, and it was the same thing. It was weird trying to be respectful as
Yeah.
a man. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. The men are the worst and they're also the best. It's like, it's hard being respectful, but also respectful in the sense that, hey, I'm not trying to objectify you, but also respectful in the sense that, hey, I want you to feel like I'm treating you just like everybody else in this gym.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's what any.
Breast, Gary?
What was
Go
that,
ahead.
Butch?
I said, which means you're feeling their breast.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think that that's just a thing.
Yeah. Good, Morgan.
I think that you're good. I think that women have to be understanding too. Like, if you're going into this sport and you're, I mean, rolling around on the ground with men or other women, like, these things are going to happen. Like, there have been times at the gym where someone has touched my chest and they've been like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, dude, I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to roll. Like, I don't care as long as you're not groping me. But no one, I mean,
nobody's ever
no
been
one,
like that.
no
at our
one is
gym.
like that. I mean,
No.
people, I'm sure there's someone out there, but like, people should know better. And if that's an issue in the gym, then I feel like they'd be gone. But, you know, like, that's not an issue. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, to go back to the original question, the weirdest thing for me is, like, the most uncomfortable thing in the gym for me is whenever I'm like on mount and like I'm trying to get to S mount and then I'm trying to go for an arm bar and then I have to switch over like north south and my whole like legs are spread over a guy's face. That's uncomfortable for me just because I don't know. Just
You've
that's
been sweating and some things can get smelly.
yeah, I mean, again, back to the hygiene thing. Like, I'm like, oh gosh, I know what it's like to be in a guy's armpit and in a guy's ass crack, and I don't want them to be like, oh God, like, damn.
Well, and that's kind of where I want to go to, is like, I want everybody to know that we're all having that same experience. It may be from different sides of it, but we're all having that same experience. Is like, this is weird and uncomfortable. And it's kind of like growing up or going through high school again or junior high, where it's like, God, I hope I don't say the stupid thing, or I don't do the stupid thing and make everybody else uncomfortable. And it's interesting that we kind of relive that at jiu-jitsu a little bit, especially when, you know, when we're talking about women and men rolling together, is, you know, the further you get away from that's a woman and the more you get into, hey, that's just somebody else trying to learn jiu-jitsu, I think the better things get.
Yeah.
And when we stop looking at like, oh man, that's a chick, I don't want to smash her. Oh man, that's a chick, I can't let her beat me. You know, and that's another thing too, is like, guys will get it in their head that they can't lose to a woman. Well, there are a lot of women out there that beat a lot of guys, and you better you better get over that. You know, you got, and it's throwing the ego out and throwing out the ideas of what it means to be a woman or a man or any of that stuff. And hey, we've all come here to do jiu-jitsu and learn jiu-jitsu, and when you boil it all down to that, like, I think it makes it easy.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I think we're to the point now where we're all so close at the gym that it doesn't even bother us anymore. Like, we're all literally best friends at our gym, you know.
That's a good point. It really shouldn't at a certain point, right? It does at the beginning. For if you just start jiu-jitsu for guys and girls, it's awkward, right? I make a point at our gym to just like address it and make a joke out of it, right off the bat. Like, when guys or girls first start, for example, I was teaching a self-defense seminar like a week ago. And so eventually we get to the ground portion, right? Which means they're going to have to do guard or mount. And if you've never done jiu-jitsu, like that doesn't make sense. So if we talk about guard or mount, it doesn't matter. We're talking about missionary or what amount, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's what, like, I'm like, here, like, you guys don't have to practice this, but I'm going to show you. And that's how we preface it. And they're cool with it. And 9 times out of 10, they don't practice. They won't do it. And that just means I'm going to be in somebody's guard and I show them how to shrimp away and then kick to somebody's face. And, you know, you could do a triangle if you needed to, but it's mostly just shrimp away and kick and get out. And they're like, oh shit. Okay. That makes sense. That's the most important thing we've learned all together. And I'm like, hey, do you want to try it? And they're like, no. You know what I'm saying? It's uncomfortable. And we joke about it. I get it. Like, and I make a joke and everybody laughs. I don't know what the joke is, but we make a joke, but it is kind of awkward, right? The whole situation is awkward. So it's okay to make like we're doing now, is kind of joking about it. But it's also very important because what Brooke and Morgan's learned and Gary and I essentially is how to protect ourselves, right? That's the most important thing. Like throw the MMA, the kickboxing, the boxing, the jiu-jitsu out. Ultimately, Brooke and Morgan know how to protect themselves if they get attacked, right? And Gary and I'm not pretending we don't either, right? Guard is a position. If I land on my back, I need to make sure somebody doesn't get side body, they don't get mounted, they don't kick my ass. I know how to protect myself. I know how to get out. And that's the whole deal, right? That's all that we're learning is that's what jiu-jitsu is. It's okay to make fun of it because it is weird, right? Like, if you've never done it, like when my wife walks, she teaches our kickboxing class. When she walks upstairs, she teaches, like, we start jiu-jitsu at 6, and by the time 7 o'clock rolls around, that's when we first start drilling and we first start rolling. Well, by that time, she's already taught 2 classes, 5:15 to 6:15. So she gets up, she walks through, and she's like, she just sees a bunch of guys like sitting on each other's faces, a bunch of guys doing, and she's like, you guys are so gay. And she says that as a joke towards me, right? She doesn't care, but she says it as a joke to me. And I'm like, yep, we are. We love it.
Yep.
That's what I say every time. She's just like, oh my God. She will not step foot in jiu-jitsu because she's like, she can't imagine me sweating on her, let alone just some random person. She's like, that is so fucking gross. Like my wife is fucking so, I don't even know.
Anti-sweat.
Yeah, she's just so weird when it comes to that. And I know I've got so many stories about, like the story I said where the guy had to determine if he was a spitter or a swallower. The same thing where like my big brown nipple was in somebody else's mouth and they had to decide what they're going to do. I had side body and my sleeveless shirt came off my fat boobie and my nipple in their mouth, and they had to decide what kind of person they were. Right? Like there's so many things you have to go through, right? But the point is, like, if the same situation happens and it's not some fat guy and it's you, there's nothing ever sexual about that position because it's life or death, right? We're practicing murdering each other, right? Rather it's breaking my joint or choking me or whatever it is, right? Or getting a dominant position until I give up. Jiu-jitsu is a position where we learn to live with uncomfortable situations and also, you know, put uncomfortable situations on another person, right? And you know, you're in a gym where you have guys that are as big as Gary and I, if not bigger, and other guys, and now here you are, like in a fight, right? And it doesn't matter. And the only reason I bring that up is because it's 90% men as compared to women, right? You're probably one of the only women in your gym, if I'm not, like, are you the only women, or is there like one or two other?
Where's? Go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Well, we.
Damn it.
There's like 2 younger girls who, or actually there's 4 other girls who do jujitsu, but they're a little bit younger.
They're in middle school and high school.
Yeah, and then Ryan obviously has his cardio kickboxing class with like the older women on Saturdays.
But we're the only women training to fight.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Which is a big deal. Like we shouldn't underestimate. I mean, like, at my gym, for example, I don't even have any girls that do jiu-jitsu currently at all, really. I have girls that start and they think it sounds great and they start and they quit like constantly.
Yeah.
So you guys are like, you're one of the elite badasses, nonetheless, that you do jiu-jitsu and you fight. I mean, that shouldn't be underestimated, that you guys are like above and beyond most normal people. Which again, I don't have much to say other than that I commend that. I respect you guys. I mean, it's amazing. I was trying to think of something funny to say, but I don't need to say anything really. I mean, let's just say that you guys are awesome. Like Gary and I, like, smell on each other all the time and sweat on each other, fart on each other, and do all kinds of shit. Like, but we don't have somebody like you. And I've watched you guys, and I love it. I love it. Like, yeah, honestly, I do. Like, you are what makes my heart happy. Like, you are what makes me know that the future is bright. And I don't care if you ever fight again. I don't care if you kickbox again. Gary and I do mostly jiu-jitsu, right? I train fighters. Gary has before too. I love it, but just the fact that you're out there pretending to murder each other by choking and breaking joints, that fucking makes me happy. And you guys are people, besides being like pretty people, but I mean, you're beautiful people inside and out. That's what, honestly, like what I'm looking for I'm 45 now. So like, I've got 20 years of life left in me. What I'm looking for the last 20
years?
Like 75. I'll be dead, right?
Tripping.
What I'm looking for in my next 20 to 30 years is beautiful people that when I die, I'm like, I met Brooke and Morgan and they made my life happy. And I saw them do jiu-jitsu and I saw them do some great things. And that's you guys, man. Thank you. I mean, honestly, I mean that.
Yes, thank you.
Well, and
Dude.
I think that's right. And it is important to know that Butch is running at high octane. So yeah, when you're running at high octane, the engine tends to burn up a little faster. But I will say that like it is kind of inspirational. Not because you're women doing jiu-jitsu or MMA, but just because I know how much hard work it takes to go into that and to do it. And so, I think a lot of times we get stuck on like the gender stuff or, hey, oh man, what is it like being a woman? And I didn't want to try and get too much into that, but it's just that I don't think people know that it's hard work. That's the bigger thing is like, you got to bust your ass every day, show up every day, and get beat up every day in order to get anywhere in combat sports. And it doesn't matter that like there is no forgiveness on your XY XX chromosomes. Like nothing cares. It's just getting your ass beat. And so that's the admirable part. I do want to ask, what is next? What's coming up for you, Brooke? Morgan too. Also, like what is in the short-term goals and long-term goals for you guys? And then also like, how can people get a hold of you, or how can people reach out to you if they wanted to know more?
Yeah. As far as right now, we're kind of just going to focus on vacation. We're going to Texas. We're leaving on March 24th. We'll be back at like the beginning of April. And then Morgan here is going to start preparing for a Fuji Jiu-Jitsu tournament. And then I also think we're both going to plan on fighting in June.
Yeah. So I have so right now, like for the next week and a half, because that's, we're going to go to the gym. We're still going to train. I actually was talking to Brooke today about when we're down in Texas, I'm going to try to get a hold of a local jiu-jitsu gym and see, like, I think that'd be awesome.
It'd be cool to train somewhere different.
Yeah. And also, I have to cut weight. I'm a lard right now. So I have to cut about 15 pounds for the tournament at the end of April, and then another probably 10 or so for the fight in June. But yeah, so I'm doing the jiu-jitsu tournament at the end of April. We're both planning on fighting in June. And then I also might be doing another jiu-jitsu tournament in October. And then, as far as like playing it one day at a time,
I mean, as of right now, like, I know that was just my first fight, but I would at least like to have like 3 fights a year, just stay very active with it. So I'm eager to get back in there.
Yeah.
Well, and so I have some good friends at Gracie Baja in Dallas. If you shoot me a message, I'll hook you up with those guys. Great jiu-jitsu gym in Dallas.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a ton of great, it's different than West Virginia, right? You can go to every,
Yeah.
and there's some great gym. But when my headquarters was in LA, I used to have to go to meetings all the time in Dallas. And anyway, I trained with those guys, and their world their trainer was like a world champion, no gi, and gi jiu-jitsu champion. So I can help you with that.
Cool.
With that guy, he's awesome. But we find that amazing. We think you guys are amazing. I'm speaking a little bit for Gary, but look, if we had the passion, and I assume we do a little bit, but if we had the passion that you guys do just starting, then we're going to be better people. And that's kind of why we wanted you to be on this podcast and episode, is slightly to motivate us, but slightly to motivate other people, right? Is that the best thing about jiu-jitsu / MMA / kickboxing / boxing / jiu-jitsu, like grappling, is the passion, the enjoyment, the beauty that you guys express through all that. And that's somewhat what we, if we're not careful, can lose, right? Is that, I've been doing this since 1997. How, like, if you guys been
I was
born?
like 5.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, that's the
Morgan
like,
wasn't even born yet.
I wasn't conceived. I wasn't even thought about.
and that's the weirdest thing for Gary and I, is that we sometimes forget that. So like, for us to hold that same enthusiasm and that same passion, that same joy for life and joy for jiu-jitsu and MMA and everything else that you have, is kind of hard in a weird way, right? Because we show up every day and teach the same stuff every day, and sometimes it gets old. And especially for me, that I'm kind of done competing, and I'm just raising a family and going to work, and things get monotonous and I get old, and unless I'm doing something new and talking to beautiful people like you, it gets kind of weird, right? But that's why we're here, is to reignite that flame through talking through people like you, and that's why I'm thankful. And I'm not speaking for Gary, but that's why I wanted to have you guys on here. Like, I've met you and I love you, and hearing your fight and hearing Morgan's stuff, and hearing the fact that you're a couple, and how much you love each other and how much that you support each other is don't touch your heart, because it makes
we hate to love one another.
Shut up.
Stop, you're making it weird.
Dang it.
But that's what makes Gary and I, and again, I'm sorry for Gary talking for you, but like, that's what makes us wake up in the daytime, right? There's that. Look, I've seen this before, but in order for me to get motivated, I have to have people like you. And that's why we have this podcast. I have to daily talk to people, and I have to be reminded what this means to everybody. Like, you're starting where Gary and I started in, for me, 1997 or before. And you're at this point now. And here's the beauty of the thing, is you guys have access to things that we could never dream of. It's almost like, hey, when I went to high school, I walked uphill to school 3 miles and walked downhill 3 miles in a blizzard, right? It's the same as
4 feet of snow. Yeah.
It's exactly like, you got YouTube, you've got all these instructors, which Gary and I didn't have, but that's not important. It's like the fact that we can all talk and motivate each other, and honestly, like, just having this talk, it makes me feel happy. Honestly, it does. Like, while you guys are talking, while you two look at each other, it's much like Gary and I look at each other. I look at him, I want to cry, and I just it makes me happy, and that's what I think.
I will say that me and Butch look way more passionately at each other than you two do, and that's kind of sad.
Dang it, guys.
I'm just saying, listen,
Well,
me and Butch got love in our
together.
eyes, and I'm not sure about you two.
Yeah, you guys actually have time apart. You don't have to live together.
They're trying to question this relationship right now.
Yeah, they are.
How long have you guys been together, by the way, before we leave?
Almost 3 years.
No, it's been like 3.5.
3.5
She's
years.
lying. Dang.
They argue a lot, Gary, but that's more than we have been together, Gary.
Oh God.
No, it's not. It's if it is, it's just barely. It's just barely.
Well, listen, I will say this, Gary, and I think you agree. They are an inspiration besides jiu-jitsu. I mean, honestly, I go back to the beautiful thing. I don't mean that as you guys are beautiful, even though you are. I mean, you're beautiful as an inspiration. I enjoy talking to you. I enjoy seeing you guys. I enjoy seeing you guys progress. Much like I enjoy seeing Gary and I progress in this jiu-jitsu podcast, because we are also beautiful, if I must say it myself.
You guys are very beautiful.
Oh
people.
yeah, this is awesome.
I love that. Yeah. But
this
honestly,
is the first time we've ever done a podcast, so we are a little bit awkward.
Not,
I mean, every time is kind of the first time that we've done a podcast. We still haven't figured this shit out. So
yeah, but you guys are great at them. Like, like you just keep talking and you know exactly what to say. And yeah, and we're like,
that's all it is. That's all it is. We just don't know how to shut up. Speaking of which,
That's
I
right.
gotta get off of here.
We gotta go.
But I will wrap this up saying thank you. I'm excited to see what happens
Thank
with
you.
both of you guys in the future, as far as like jiu-jitsu, the MMA, and you got to let us know when the next fight's happening, and we'll see if we can't be there. At least find out what's going on with the next fight.
Absolutely.
I want to be there to cheer you on. So
Yeah, and we'll try to like I'm really bad about posting on Instagram, but I'll like try to start posting more and like staying pretty
Yeah.
active on there too, so you
Right.
can kind of see what we're into and stuff.
absolutely.
And Facebook, we have Facebook too.
Yeah.
So
The next fight is June 11th. Mark
June
your
11th.
calendar. We don't know any other details other than that's what Keith
we don't have any opponent
said.
yet. Or
Yeah,
anything,
no,
so.
but
All we know is
June
it's
11th.
June 11th, and somebody's gonna get called the C word.
Yeah.
That's it.
someone,
That's all we know.
someone's gonna get knocked out. Someone's gonna get called a name. I don't know.
So we could be fighting. We may not be fighting. If they don't find us a person,
we'll fight
so-
each other.
Yeah, we'll fight each other.
we need to stop that. You need to stop fighting each other. And April, Fuji, possibly in Huntington, if it works out in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Morgan's gonna do that one. I'm actually not gonna do that one. I'm just gonna, because she gets very nervous. So I'm just gonna kind of make it about her, just to support her, since I just fought anyway.
Kinda
So.
seemed like an asshole thing to say, but that's okay.
What? What'd you
I'm
say?
fucking with you. Just fucking with you.
I didn't.
I said-
He called you an
Kinda
asshole.
seemed like
I'm
an
not an
asshole thing to
asshole.
say. I was just fucking with you. It's okay. It's all perfect.
No, I just kind of, want to
And I know
be there
this,
for her that day.
this was initially about Brooke,
Yeah.
and you're a team, and it's never just about Brooke. It's also about you.
No, I appreciate you guys letting me come on
Really,
here.
No,
Like,
it is. That's why you're both on here. We love you
Well,
both.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. I know it was about Brooke, but y'all
If-
started talking about me and putting words in my mouth, and I said nope.
Well, I can get a little socially awkward anyway, so I'm kind of glad she jumped in.
Yeah.
Well, I just kind of echoing what Butch said. Like, I'm super thankful that you both joined us today, and I'm excited to see where things go as far as like your career as martial artists. So, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Badass. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
It was awesome. So happy
Uh,
to meet you, Gary with 2 R's.
Oh,
Thank
shit.
you.
Look at that.
Yeah,
All that.
Gary
is
with 2
weird.
R's.
it is weird.
Gary.
It's not Gary. It's Gary.
Gary.
No, it's
Yeah.
not weird. It's not weird because Larry is spelled with 2 R's. It's weird if your name's Gary spelled with 1 R.
That's
Dang,
my
she
girl.
gets it.
It's kind of
She
true.
gets it.
On that
She did
note,
hit it. She was on point with that one.
we love you both. Brooke and Morgan,
Love you
Uh,
too.
22 and 23 is going to be your year. Gary
Yeah.
and I sit back and watch, and hopefully this was the first step on a journey of many others. And then when you guys are famous, we can say we met them in 2022. We love you
Yeah.
guys.
Love you too.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
All kinds of love, guys. Have a good night.
Love you.
Peace.
Bye.